So what did he say? What did he say, huh?
He went with the Kremlin Crushers.
The Kremlin Crushers?
Why?
Why?
You were great.
Well, he says the fans want to see bad guys.
Bad guys?
Oh, great. Now what do we do?
You agree? All right. If they want to see bad guys, then I'm going to make you bad guys. And I know exactly who's going to do it. I'm going to get Terrible Turk McGurk.
And I'm Petal McGurk, his lady wife.
Skip that.
So you want to be bad guy wrestlers, do ya? Let's see what you can do. In the ring. What I want to see is scars, broken nose, dirty fingernails, deformity. In the ring!
Here, let me get those old ropes for you, Dave. After you.
Thanks. There you go.
You don't need to be polite.
Come on.
I'll show you how it's done.
Yeah, me too.
I'll take this one, Davy boy.
Come here. See the hair?
Oh, hey.
The hair was made for grabbing. See the neck? The neck. See the neck? The neck was made for choking. Don't choke. See the body? That was made for... See this championship belt? I won that in Madison Square Garden.
It's real nice.
Great, I had your head on point. A cold beer, you'll feel like $1 million.
I feel like 2 cents.
This story I will tell is about Gene Labell. He was the greatest fighter that the world ever knew. You could travel everywhere, but never would you find a man who could throw Gene Labell. Big Gene stood alone, for a mighty man was he. The battles on the judo mats were an awesome sight to see. He took them one by one and he drove them all away. In the dojos of the world he was the king. His legs were as strong as an oak tree, so they say. His skin was thick as leather, his eyes quick and small. There never was a man who was born with a fighter's hand who could ever be a match for Gene Labell. Along came a man, Model Savage was his name. His fists were strong as iron, and boxing was his game. He claimed the martial arts were no match for his skill until he met the man Gene Labell.
This is a good technique to hold a man for a long period of time without any strain to your body. With your opponent face down, sit comfortably on his upper back. Grab his straight arms at the wrists. Squeeze your knees together against his arms. At the same time, shove his wrists together and push them over his head with your hands. Actually, once you're in this position, you can let go with your hands and hold his arms with your knees just by pushing him together. The pressure is on your opponent's shoulders. This technique is one of the time hold series. The time hold series means any particular hold that you can hold your opponent while you're relaxed and comfortable and no particular strain to yourself, but a lot of pressure against some part of his body. Both you and your opponent are standing. You're behind him. Grapevine your opponent's left leg with your left leg, controlling his lower body as you are behind him, placing most of your weight on your right leg. Straighten his elbows by wrapping your arms around his forearms. Grasp your hands firmly together in an Indian grip. There is pressure on his elbows, but for the main pressure on his shoulders, raise your opponent's wrists over his head and squeeze them together. Hitting your opponent in the stomach is just one of many ways to get him to bend over. Grab your opponent's head, shoving it down between your inner thighs. Squeeze your knees together, controlling his head. At the same time, straighten his elbows by grabbing his wrists with your hands and pulling them toward your armpits as you arch backwards. The pressure is on his shoulders. Pull his wrist, swing your bent right knee over his left shoulder, keeping his elbow straight. Lock his left wrist, thumb pointing toward you, on your left upper thigh by putting the weight of the back of your right thigh on your straight elbow. Hook your right instep at the crook of your opponent's left knee. Grab your opponent's straight right arm at his wrist with both of your hands, pulling it towards his left upper shoulder as you're straightening your right leg. The pressure is on his lock, left elbow, and right shoulder. Your opponent is on his hands and knees. You're laying on your back. You're straightening his arm by pulling at his wrist. Your left shin is at his neck. Your right foot is pushing away at his hip on the left side. Your knees are together. His thumb is pointing over his head. You are putting pressure against his left elbow by pushing his wrist down towards his hip. Wrap your right leg around your opponent's neck, securing his head and straight left arm in a figure 4 leg scissors. Grab his wrist with both hands, straighten it out, pull it back against the elbow. The pressure is on his neck in a stranglehold and an overhead Japanese armbar. Key lock your arms around your opponent's bent left arm. Scoot over and Indian lock your hands together. To put pressure on his left elbow and the muscles around his left elbow, get your wrist, your left wrist, in as deep as you can in the crook of his left arm. Then to put pain on, you press with your armpit against his wrist and press it against your opponent's shoulder. The more you press his wrist to his shoulder, the more pressure you'll put on his left elbow and the muscles on either side of the elbow. Kicking your opponent is not necessary. It's just one way of making your opponent raise his arms off the mat. Makes it easier to grab. The whole secret in this technique is to get your wrist in deep into the crook of his arm. Once it's in deep, press his wrist to his shoulder. Use your armpit to press against his wrist and shove it into the shoulder. The closer the wrist goes to the shoulder, the more it hurts his elbow and the muscles on both sides of his arm. The only difference in these two techniques are the direction you attack your opponent. The secret of this technique is to get your calf and ankle in as close as you can to the crook of the opponent's elbow. Then with your upper thigh and buttocks, press his wrist as close to his shoulder as you can. The pressure is on his elbow and the muscles on both sides of his arm. The whole secret in this technique is to get your wrist in as close to the crook of his arm as possible. Then, with your other arm, squeeze his wrist towards his shoulder. The pressure is on his elbow and the muscles on both sides of his elbow.
Now I've got the wrist lock. You see the wrist there? You can see the wrist, huh?
You are flexing your opponent's wrist with the inside of your elbow. Pressure's on his wrist. If your opponent bends his right arm, place your left wrist deep into the crook of his right elbow, pulling it firmly toward you. Place your left leg over your opponent's right wrist, trapping it with your left knee, forcing his wrist towards his shoulder. Place your right knee over your left ankle in a figure 4 leg lock and squeeze. Pull your left hand with your right in an Indian grip, and the pressure is on his elbow and the muscles on both sides of his elbow. Jam your elbow on the left side of your opponent's neck, forcing him to bend his arm. When he does, grab his wrist with your right hand and flex it towards his left elbow. The pain is on his wrist. Now, pull his wrist to your right, forcing his wrist away from the left side of his head, and the pressure will also be on his elbow and shoulder.
You're next!
Bend your opponent's hand by going into a top wrist lock, then switch, getting both of your arms behind his tricep. Grab his wrist with your left hand and secure that left grip with your right hand. Now he's in an arm crank. Raise his elbow with your shoulder and lower his wrist with your hands. The pressure is on his elbow, slightly on his shoulder. Now force him to the mat.
You notice how I get my knee under there? And then I slip that right there. How'd you like that? Armando! You notice how I get my knee under there? And then I slip that right there.
To put pressure on his elbow, shoulder, and neck. Grab your hands together in an Indian grip around his neck. Arch your back, forcing his head upward and his elbow also upward, but his wrist goes downward in the opposite direction in an upper arm cranking motion. Use your legs for the lever. Notice we do the slap and catch. It's very important to force your opponent's thumb into his palm as you grab his hand and twist it, putting pressure on his wrist. You're in an arm crank. You notice his elbow is down, his wrist is up, forcing his wrist over his head, and your leg stops your opponent from rolling forward. Pressure's on the shoulder and elbow and wrist. Your right hand grabs his left wrist and jams the back of his hand into his left side, flexing his wrist. Your left hand pushes against his left elbow, helping the wrist to be flexed. Pain's on the wrist. Spread your legs for balance. Wrap your left arm around your opponent's bent upper left arm at his tricep. Grab your hands together at his forearm. Squeeze his upper arm toward your chest, forcing the back of his hand into your stomach, flexing his wrist. At the same time, raise his left elbow by squeezing your arms toward your chest and leaning your upper body backward. The pressure is on his shoulder and flexed wrist. Hook your opponent's right forearm with your right forearm, lifting his elbow higher than his wrist. Hook your left wrist with your right hand. Grab his tricep with your left hand. Place your left foot over his face and neck. That'll stop him from rolling to his right. Now, crank your opponent's arm to your right by twisting to your right. The pressure is on his elbow and shoulder. Place the weight of your chest on your opponent's chest. Grab your opponent's left wrist with your left hand and thumb over. Place your right hand underneath his left upper arm and over your left wrist, grabbing your wrist securely with your thumb over. To put pressure on his elbow and shoulder, keep his wrist on the mat and slide it downward towards his waist while raising his elbow with your right forearm in a cranking motion. The pressure is on his elbow and shoulder. Grab your opponent's wrist, step your left leg over to stop him from rolling out. Put your arms in the top wrist lock, put pressure on his elbow and shoulder, you crank it to your right. Now you can go into a wrist lock if you want. With your left hand, bend his wrist. Now both hands. Two hands for beginners. Two hands for beginners. One hand for experts.
I'll hold this here, and I'll
Crank
hold
that
this.
wrist. Now you've got a shoulder crank, elbow crank, and a wrist lock. One. Hurts too, doesn't it?
And if you want, you can crank this wrist if you want. And if you want to switch to here, you can switch to there. But I don't want it, so I'll hold this here, and I'll hold this here. And
With your opponent on his back, grapevine his bent right arm with your right leg. Secure his right wrist by hooking it with your right instep and pointing the toes of your right foot toward your shin. To put pressure on his elbow and shoulder, turn your body counterclockwise away from his left leg. Spread his right wrist away from his right side of his head by straightening your right leg. With your opponent on his back, grapevine both of your legs underneath both of his bent arms and hook both of his wrists with your insteps. Turn your toes away from his head, curling them up toward your shins, locking his wrist. Spread his wrist away from his head by spreading your legs at the ankles and raise his elbows away from the mat by straightening your legs. The pressure is on his elbows and shoulders. With your opponent on his stomach, get on all fours with your shins resting on his shoulders and your head facing his feet. With both of your hands, grab his wrists and tuck them in at the back of your knees. Sit down, securing his wrists between the back of your lower thighs and calves of your legs. Straighten your legs slightly as you scoot toward his head, thus forcing his wrists and forearms up and towards his head and away from his body. The pressure is on his shoulders and elbows. This is a very good please come along, and it's a good way to get a drunk out of a bar.
Mondo, get out of the bar, you drunk, you!
This is a great please come along, great security hold, great hold for walking a man anywhere you would like to. Press up under his nose or chin and jaw. Lift his head up and backward. Raise your left wrist with the crook of your right elbow, which is in a forearm hammerlock. Walk him or hold him. The pressure's on his left shoulder, nose, or whatever you grab in his face. From behind, grab your opponent around his neck with your left arm, leaning him backward. The crook of your right arm is lifting his bent left arm at the wrist. Grab your hands together, squeezing them in an Indian grip, tightening your grip as you choke him with your left forearm and bicep, and raise his wrist while putting pressure on his left shoulder with your right arm. The difference between this, which is a turkey wing, and the chicken wing, is you still have your left arm around his neck, but instead of using his left arm, you use his right arm. In both the turkey wing and the chicken wing, the pressure is on his neck, his elbow, and his shoulder. With your opponent on his back, grapevine his left leg and ankle with your right instep. Push away from the right side of his upper body by straight arming him anywhere on the upper right side of his body with your right arm. This will force your upper body to his right in an outrigger position, which will allow your right leg to straighten without losing your single grapevine. It will shove his left leg towards his left side, stretching and putting pressure on his left hip joint. Your opponent is on his back. Place your knees inside of your opponent's knees. Your ankles are on the outside of his ankles, squeezing inward. Push down and out on the inside of his knees with your hands. Spread his knees away from each other. The pressure is on his groin area. Your legs are wrapped around the outside of your opponent's thighs, and your feet at the instep are hooked on the inside of his ankles. Spread his legs with your legs slightly, controlling his lower body. Your hands are above his shoulders on the mat for balance. To put pressure on his legs, hips, and the small of his back, straighten your legs, raising your body, scooting your hips back, forcing his hips forward and backward over his ankles. From a standing position, with your opponent's left leg secured underneath your left armpit, step between his legs with your left leg. Rest your left foot on the left side of his body and fall towards the mat. The thumb side of your left forearm is underneath his left calf. Your right hand is pulling and lifting your left hand close to your upper chest, locking his ankle underneath your left armpit. Your legs are scissored above his upper thigh. To put pressure on his calf muscle, arch back, squeezing and lifting his calf with the thumb side of your left wrist and the aid of your right arm and hand while you straighten your scissored legs. Your opponent is on his back. Your knees are bent and your body's bent over. With your right foot, step over his body and place it at the right side of his waist. Spread his legs by placing your lower left shin and instep against the underside of his lower right thigh. His left ankle is secured with your right hand. Your left hand is pressing his left calf against your right inner thigh. To put pressure on his left knee, Straighten up slightly as you turn to your right, forcing your right knee and his left knee inward.
That's one. Then see this here? I put this one over that and that one over that.
You're both in a sitting position. Your opponent has a scissor grip around your stomach from behind. His right foot is scissored on top of his left foot. Pressing down with both of your hands against his toes of his right foot, slip your lower left calf over his right ankle and instep. Scissor your legs by placing your right leg over your left instep. Arch your back, scissoring and forcing your legs down against his scissored ankles. The pressure is on his right ankle.
I'm slowly getting up. And I'm slowly getting up. And then I'm slowly getting back to the breakers. Now I'm slowly getting up. And I'm slowly getting up. And then I'm slowly getting back to the breakers.
If your opponent scissors your right knee with his left leg on top while he's on his back, grab his left foot with your right hand and place your right instep against his left instep at the ankle. Stand up, straightening your right leg, arching your upper body back and pulling his buttocks over his left ankle. The pressure is on his left knee.
Hey! That's it. Now I'm gonna fall down and stretch it. Oh, I got him stretched now.
Assuming you're standing and you have your opponent in an Indian deathlock, fall to your left. To put pressure on his left knee, scoot your upper body as far away from his upper body as you can by straightening your right leg, pulling his buttocks over his left ankle. You can also help keeping the distance between your chest and his by straight arming him with your right arm.
Okay.
With your opponent on his face, place the lower part of your left calf in the crook of his left knee. Place your left knee resting on the mat. Grab the lower part of his left foot with your hand, bending it over the lower part of your left calf as you tuck his foot in and around your right or inner thigh, placing it snug against your right hip. Figure 4, your left ankle with your right knee. To put pressure on his left knee, grab your hands together around his right shoulder. Lean forward, pulling his shoulder toward your chest and forcing his left heel toward his right hip. With your opponent on his face and with his left leg bent at the knee, you are in a left-sided sitting position. Wrap your left arm around his left calf, forcing the thumb side of your left wrist deep against the crook of his left knee. Grab your left hand with your right hand. That's in an Indian grip. Spread your legs for leverage. To put pressure on his left knee, scoot your lower body away from his back. Arch your back, leaning backward. Shove his left ankle and instep, which is hooked underneath your left arm pit, backwards and towards his buttocks.
Okay? Now right on your butt. Here we go.
Put your feet inside and between his legs. Grab his left bent foot, hooking his left instep behind your left upper calf. Grab his right bent foot, placing his right instep above your right upper calf. Roll sharply on your back. When both of you are on your back, to put pressure on his right ankle and both of his knees, scoot your buttocks as close to his as possible. Straighten your legs, lifting his legs and lower body off the ground. Once his knees and lower body are in the air, try to get your buttocks as close to his shoulders as possible for better leverage. The higher you lift his legs, the more pressure there is on his right ankle and both of his knees. Grab your opponent's feet, placing them underneath your armpits. Secure his insteps close to your body by hugging them with the inside of your upper arms. Your arms are folded, your wrists and forearms are underneath his Achilles tendons at the ankle. To apply pressure, raise your forearms as you arch slightly backward, pointing his toes to the east and west. The more you raise his heels and lower the balls of his feet and toes, the more pressure you will put on his ankles.
What do you say, Mondo?
Place your opponent's feet underneath your armpits and secure them with the inside of your upper arms. Wrap your arms around his ankles, grabbing your left wrist with your right hand and squeezing and hugging toward your upper chest. To put pressure on his ankles, arch your back while you raise up his heels and lower his toes at the same time. In other words, turn his right foot to his right and his left foot to his left at the same time. Grab your opponent's left leg by putting your left forearm underneath his left knee. Grab your right wrist with your left hand. Grab his lower left thigh with your right hand. Pull his leg in close to your upper body. Arch and raise his left leg and lower body off the mat. Turn counterclockwise to your left as you step over the small of his back with your right foot. The knee crank will force him on his stomach. To put pressure on his left hip and the small of his back, arch back, pulling his left leg with you as you bend your knees toward a sitting position. Grab your opponent's left ankle with your left arm, locking his foot and toes underneath your left armpit, securing it tight with the inside of your upper arm. Grab your left wrist with your right hand, lifting and arching back. Start to turn counterclockwise to your left, flipping him over on his face with the use of a knee lever as you swing your right leg over his body. To put pressure on his left ankle and left hip, bend your legs and arch your back, throwing your hips forward, bending his lower foot and toes down and backward while raising his Achilles tendon with your left forearm and the aid of your right hand. Snap your opponent's right instep into your left shoulder and the left side of your neck. You're squeezing with the thumb side of your left wrist and you're in a closed three-finger grip. You're pulling towards your upper chest with your right and left hand and pushing against his toes and instep with your left shoulder. The pressure is on his right ankle. This technique was designed for an opponent that is not limber. Force your opponent's left knee towards his face with the use of your left shoulder and left arm. Grab around the back of his neck and squeeze, either in an Indian grip or a closed three-fingered grip. Spread his legs by putting your left shin on your opponent's lower right thigh and pressing it toward the mat. This is not only a good hold down, but there's pressure on the groin area and the back of the neck. Wrap your right arm around your opponent's bent right leg at the upper calf. Double up your right fist and place it on your chest, securing his lower leg to the right side of your body. Now crank his right knee clockwise, forcing him onto his left side. At the same time, wrap your left arm around the back of his neck and place your left hand underneath his armpit. Straighten out your left arm, forcing his head forward. Continue cranking his bent right knee clockwise. The pressure's on his right knee, right hip, and neck. Hook your opponent's bent right knee with your right forearm underneath his upper calf. Grab your left wrist with your right hand. Grab his right thigh with your left hand. Your arms are in a figure four. Place your left foot over the left side of his neck and face and turn and twist to your right, cranking his knee and his right hip. Your opponent is on his back and you are standing. Your left foot is between his legs. Grab his left heel with your right hand and jerk his left leg straight. Place his left heel on your upper right thigh. Grab his right ankle with your left hand, placing it on top of, or slightly above, his left knee in a figure four position. With both of your hands, grab the heel and Achilles tendon of his left foot. Lift his straight left leg upward. Straighten out your left knee, forcing his right ankle in a downward direction, locking his straight left knee. I always prefer it when your opponent is on his back, and you are standing when you do your finishing hold. Your opponent is on his back, and you're standing with your back toward him. Your right leg is between his legs, and your left leg is on the left side of his left thigh. Grab his straight left leg underneath his Achilles tendon and ankle with your left hand. Grab his right ankle with your right hand, forcing it around the upper part of your right chin and slightly above his locked left knee in the figure 4 position. Slide his ankle over the upper part of his left knee so that the outside of his calf is in contact with his upper knee. Put your left knee over his left instep. To put pressure on his left knee, lean back, straightening both of your legs as you pull his straight locked left knee at his heel upward and towards you with both of your hands.
Yes, and you put that there, and that's like this, and that's the first one, right? And then I fall down, and I go like this, and then I go, what do you say? What do you say? Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
While your opponent is on his back, place your left foot between his legs. With your right hand, grab his left ankle, snapping his left knee straight. With your left hand, wrap his right leg around your left knee in a figure 4 position. Press his right ankle down with your left hand slightly above his left knee. Bend your legs, falling on your back, and at the same time, place your right knee over his right instep and ankle, taking the place of your left hand. To put pressure on his straight locked left knee, straighten your left leg while pressing down on the backside of your right knee. Step on the back of his lower thighs with your feet pointing outward. Lock his ankles and insteps around your upper shins. Grab his wrists with your hands. Bend your knees as you pull his arms at the wrist. This will put more pressure on his knees and arch his back. Jerk his wrist toward your shoulders, forcing your opponent backward. Continue to roll until you are on your back. Your opponent is upside down and helpless. Spread your legs slightly for a little more leverage. The more you straighten your legs, the more pressure you put on his knees, back, and shoulders.
As we talk, you understand, people think we have 4 units, 2 arms, 2 legs, maybe 5 units. A good wrestler will say 6 because he can bite. A real good wrestler, he's got a lot more. He's got his fists and fingers, each one of these fingers. They're good for something besides sucking. You know what they're good for? I'll tell you what they're good for. Poking the guy in the eye. Now let me tell you something. Your nerve endings are so close to your brain that you get a piece of dirt in your eye and you can feel the pain. Okay? Now say I grab this man in a headlock here. You see this? I've got that old grip, that Indian grip, and I can go like this. Great for the... Oh, you say that you're the referee and you see it? Now you know. That's called the shady side of the move. Here, and now you do. Now you don't. Now you do. Ha ha ha. Break! Because I'm a clean wrestler. Okay. Now, a lot of people like to just go like this and strike. The only reason I hate to strike from in front, which is very good, is the man has his units, 2 arms and 2 legs, that can strike real good at me. Kick, oh, hit. If I turn him to the sideways, he only has this arm and this leg. But if I go behind him and he goes, say they hit me or anything, and I happen to bend it backwards, he can't do a doggone thing. So I get him in the arms. I get him in the arm sockets, and I squeeze, and I squeeze, and I squeeze, and I squeeze. How'd you like that, Armando? Get up, you wimp. You know, the whole situation, the object is to get the man close to you. And sometimes you have to bite, scratch, pull. And don't forget to pull the guy with a handle such as the groin or the trunks. Now, let me tell you something. I don't want any of you little kids to practice without a qualified teacher to help you, because we don't want any of you little fellas, you little guys, to get hurt. You understand that? Because I want you to grow up to be big guys and not bullies. Fair play, that's the name of the game. I don't recommend biting, but it's very important if you do bite. Don't bite with the front teeth, because a man jerks away and your teeth will come out. You always bite with the back teeth, like you're biting hard candy, which is really bad for you because it gives you cavities. You want to have beautiful teeth, like Judo Gene. Now say this man happens to grab me in the hole. Ooh! It works. It works in the ring, and it works on the street. In the ring, you've got to count of 5 before they disqualify you. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do a world of things. Now, for you wrestling fans, you learn dirty stuff, but you should be able to get out of holds, any holds, fair. The last situation to do to get away is be dirty, like, right? That's good. I like that. 10 against 1, I can do it. 10 against 1, the Guinness Book of Records.
The story I will tell is about Gene Labell. He was the greatest fighter that the world ever knew. You could travel everywhere, but never would you find a man who could throw Gene Labell. Big Gene stood alone, for a mighty man was he. The battles on the judo mats were an awesome sight to see. He took them one by one, and he drove them all the way. In the dojos of the world, he was the king. His legs were as strong as an oak tree, so they say. His skin was thick as leather, his eyes quick and small. There never was a man who was born with a fighter's hand who could ever be a match for Gene Labell. Along came a man, Milo Savage was his name. His fists were strong as iron, and boxing was his game. He claimed the martial arts were no match for his skill until he met the man Gene Labell. 4 rounds did they fight, to the death so it seemed. 2 giants dealing deadly blows to see who would be king. The crowd held its breath, for what would happen then was sure to change the thoughts of many men. In a moment it was done, Milo Savage made no sound. Gene blocked his punch and choked him out and threw him to the ground. In victory he stood with his foot upon the man who who had dared to raise his hand to Labell. This story that I tell is about Gene Labell. He was the greatest fighter that the world ever knew. You could travel everywhere, but never would you find a man who could throw Gene Labell.